Hello students, today we will be studying the epithelium part 3. In the first video on epithelium, we had done the introduction and definition of epithelium. We then studied the forms and characteristics of the epithelial cells, and we also saw the 4 apical surface modifications of the epithelial cells. And in the video on part 2, we classified epithelium and we studied the simple epithelia in detail. In this video, we will now be just quickly revising the classification of epithelium and then moving on to study the compound epithelia in detail. So how do we classify epithelium? The epithelial tissue can be of 3 types: simple, compound and glandular. Under simple epithelium, we have simple squamous epithelium, simple cuboidal epithelium, simple columnar epithelium, pseudostratified epithelium, which could be columnar or ciliated columnar, and there could be ciliated epithelium, which could be columnar or cuboidal. Under compound epithelium, we have stratified, transitional and specialized epithelia, and the third is the glandular epithelium. Now coming on to the compound epithelium, it could be stratified epithelium or specialized epithelium. Under stratified epithelium, there is stratified squamous epithelium, which is of 2 types, keratinized and non-keratinized, stratified cuboidal epithelium, stratified columnar epithelium, and stratified columnar ciliated epithelium. Under specialized epithelium, there is transitional, neurosensory, pigmented, and germinal epithelium. So let us now go on to study the stratified epithelium. Stratified epithelium is divided into following types according to the morphology of the cells at the surface of the epithelium. These 4 types are stratified squamous epithelium, stratified cuboidal epithelium, stratified columnar epithelium, and transitional epithelium. And this division is based on the morphology of the surface cells. Stratified squamous epithelium. There is multiple cell layer in stratified squamous epithelium. When shape of cells of surface layer of the stratified epithelium is flat or squamous, it is known as stratified squamous epithelium. According to living or dead cells which are seen on the surface layer of the stratified squamous epithelium, it is divided into 2 types: non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium and keratinized stratified squamous epithelium. Now let us go on to study the non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium. It is composed of several layers of cells, hence it is stratified. When epithelium is composed of multiple cell layers and surface layer has flat cells or squamous cells which are live and possess nuclei, it is known as non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium. The deepest layer is in contact with the basal lamina, and the deepest layer cells are cuboidal or low columnar in shape. The cells in the middle layers are polymorphous, and the cells on the surface are flattened, that is squamous cells, and they are live cells, that is they have nuclei. What we see here is a diagram showing us the epithelium. This is the basal lamina, and these are the deepest cells which rest on the basal lamina, and these cells are cuboidal or low columnar. The middle layer of cells are polymorphous or polyhedral cells, and the surface cells are flat or squamous, and they are live cells showing presence of nuclei, and thus we call it as non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium. Non-keratinized because there are live cells on the surface, stratified because multiple cell layers, squamous because the surface cells are squamous or flat. And the function of this type of epithelium is protection and secretion. Examples: where do we see non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium in the body? Lining of oral cavity, epiglottis, esophagus, vocal folds, vagina, anal canal, cornea, inner surface of eyelids, and the vestibules of nasal cavity. This we see here a picture of the epithelium Stratified squamous non-keratinized epithelium. This is the basal lamina. Deepest layer of cells, cuboidal or low columnar. Middle layer of cells are polymorphous. And this is the flat surface cells with nuclei. Same is seen here, the H&E slide of esophagus, the low part view where we see the epithelium, non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium. And this is the high part view showing us the basal layer, the middle layer of cells, and the surface cells which are nucleated and squamous. So, lining epithelium of esophagus, stratified squamous non-keratinized epithelium. Next, we want to study the keratinized stratified squamous epithelium. It is composed of several layers of cells. When epithelium is composed of multiple cell layers and surface layer has flat cells or squamous cells which are dead and do not possess nuclei, it is known as keratinized stratified squamous epithelium. Structure. The deepest layer is in contact with the basal lamina, and this deepest layer cells are cuboidal or low columnar in shape. Cells in the middle layers are polymorphous, and the cells on the surface are flattened, that is squamous cells, and they are dead cells, so they do not have nuclei. This is a diagram showing us the same. This is the basal lamina. Deepest layer of cells resting on it, made up of cuboidal or low columnar cells. Middle layer of cells which are polymorphous, and then the surface cells which are flattened squamous cells, and they do not have any nuclei. They are dead cells, and that is why this is keratinized stratified squamous epithelium. Keratinized because dead cells. Stratified because multiple layer of cells. Squamous because the surface cells are flattened or squamous. Protection of the deep lying structures is the function of this type of epithelium. Where do we see this type of epithelium in the body? Epidermis of skin, mucocutaneous junction of lips, nostrils, distal anal canal, outer surface of tympanic membrane, part of the oral cavity, that is the lining of the gingivae, hard palate, and the filiform papillae on the anterior part of the dorsal surface of the tongue. What we see here is a picture showing us the epidermis of skin. This entire thing is the epithelium. The basal lamina, basal layer or the deepest layer resting on the basal lamina, made up of cuboidal or low columnar cells. The middle layer of cells which are polymorphous, and then comes the surface cells which are flat squamous dead cells because they do not have any nuclei. Keratinized stratified squamous epithelium. And what we see here is an H&E stain slide of thick skin showing us the epidermis and a hyper view of the same, where we see the basal layer, the middle layer of cells, and this here is the basal layer, the middle layer of cells which are polymorphous, and then the layer of dead cells, flattened squamous cells with no nuclei. So keratinized stratified squamous epithelium. Next we go to study the stratified cuboidal epithelium. It is composed of two or more layers of cells. Where epithelium is composed of more than one cell layers which are cuboidal in shape, the epithelium is known as stratified cuboidal epithelium. The deepest layer is in contact with the basal lamina. It consists of several layers of cells, of which the superficial cells are cuboidal and the rest may be polyhedral in shape. That's what's seen here in the diagram, the basal lamina, the basal layer or the deepest layer of cuboidal cells. In between are the polymorphic layer, and the surface cells are cuboidal. So this is stratified cuboidal epithelium. Function being absorption and secretion. Examples where we see this in the body: the ducts of sweat gland, sebaceous gland, and mammary gland, seminiferous tubules of testes, and the developing ovarian follicles, and larger excretory ducts. This, what we see here, is a duct lined by stratified cuboidal epithelium. Next we see stratified columnar epithelium. It is composed of more than one layer of cells. When epithelium is composed of more than one cell layers and cells of the superficial layer are columnar in shape, the epithelium is known as stratified columnar epithelium. The deepest layer is in contact with the basal lamina. It consists of several layers of cells, of which the superficial cells are columnar in shape. Deepest layers are cuboidal or low columnar, and the layers in between will be polyhedral or cuboidal in shape. Same is seen here in the diagram. The basal lamina. The deepest layer is made up of cuboidal or low columnar cells. In between the middle layers, the deeper layers are polymorphous or cuboidal, and the surface cells are columnar. So stratified columnar epithelium. And function of this epithelium is absorption, secretion, and protection. Where do we see this type of epithelium? The cavernous part of male urethra, transition zone of inner canal, fornix of conjunctiva, and larger ducts. Then we go on to study the transitional epithelium. It is composed of more than one layer of cells. It is believed to be in transit between stratified columnar and stratified squamous epithelium. When epithelium is composed of multiple cell layers and cells of the superficial layer are large and dome-shaped, the epithelium is known as transitional epithelium. The deepest layer is in contact with the basal lamina. The cells of the deeper layer are low columnar or cuboidal in shape. The middle layer cells are polyhedral in shape, and the cells of the superficial layer are dome-shaped in a relaxed condition. But when the organ stretches, the cells of the superficial layer become flattened. Function of this type of epithelium is protection and distension. What we see here are the diagrams of the transitional epithelium in a relaxed state and in a stretched state. So when the epithelium is relaxed, we have the deepest layer resting on the basal membrane made up of cuboidal or low columnar cells. Then there are the middle layer or the deeper layer of cells which are polyhedral. And as we go towards the surface, these cells become pear-shaped, and the superficial layer is having dome-shaped cells, and a few cells may also have two nuclei. In a stretched state, the epithelium becomes stretched. Number of layers appear to be lesser. The basal or the deepest layer is made up of low cuboidal cells. In between layers are also pear-shaped, and the superficial most layer is flattened. That is transitional epithelium. It helps in stretching, or it gives distensibility to the organ. Examples of where we see transitional epithelium in the body: lining epithelium of renal calyces, renal pelvis, ureter, urinary bladder, prostatic part of male urethra, and part of female urethra near the urinary bladder. This is a picture of the urinary bladder showing us the transitional epithelium. Basal lamina, deepest layer of cells having cuboidal or low columnar cells. Then are the polyhedral cells which become pear-shaped, and the superficial most layer having dome-shaped cells, and a few cells showing two nuclei. That is the transitional epithelium. What we see here is an H&E stain slide of the ureter, the low part view, which shows us the transitional epithelium, and a high part view here, which shows the basal layer, the middle layer of cells, and the surface layer of dome-shaped cells. So that is transitional epithelium. Thus we have studied the different types of stratified epithelia in this video. Let us have a quick review on the different types of epithelia which we have studied in these videos. So what we see here is simple squamous epithelium, single layer of cells, flattened squamous cells showing a bulging nucleus. What we see here is simple cuboidal epithelium, single layer of cuboidal cells, wherein the height of the cells is same as the width of the cells, and they have a rounded nucleus in the center. What we see here is simple columnar epithelium, simple ciliated columnar epithelium, single layer of cells resting on a basal membrane. Cells are columnar. Height is much more than the width of the cell, and they have an oval nucleus which is situated near the base of the cell. Apical fold showing presence of cilia. So simple ciliated columnar epithelium, and if there are no cilia, then it becomes simple columnar epithelium. Next we see the stratified epithelium here. This is stratified squamous epithelium, basal lamina, deepest layer of cuboidal or low columnar cells, middle layer of polyhedral cells, and then the surface cells are squamous or flattened cells showing presence of the nucleus. So this becomes the non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium. What we see here is the transitional epithelium, basal lamina with the deepest layer of cuboidal or low columnar cells. Then are the polymorphic cells which become pear-shaped, and the surface cells are dome-shaped. So this is the transitional epithelium. And what we see here is pseudostratified ciliated columnar epithelium. Basal lamina having a single layer of cells, but the cells are of different heights. Some cells reaching the surface and some cells which do not reach the surface. Hence their nuclei are at different levels, giving a false appearance of there being stratification. So it is pseudostratified columnar epithelium, and the apical portion shows presence of cilia, so pseudostratified ciliated columnar epithelium. Now let us just see the functions of epithelium. Protection of underlying tissues of the body from abrasion and injury, transcellular transport of molecules across epithelial layers, secretion of mucus, hormones and enzymes, absorption of material from the lumen, detection of sensations via taste buds, retina of the eye and specialized hair cells in the ear, control of movement of materials between body compartments via selective permeability of intercellular junction between cells. The principal functions of the epithelial cells can be summarized as follows. The covering and lining of surfaces, example skin and intestines, absorption in the intestines, secretion which is done in the glands, sensation, example gustatory, olfactory and neuroepithelium, and contractility which is seen in the myoepithelial cells. Because the epithelial cells line all external and internal surfaces of the body, everything that enters or leaves the body must cross an epithelial sheet. Thus, with this, we have completed all the 3 videos on epithelium. Thank you.